welcome to another episode of Expedition Marriage. I am Chris. I'm here with my lovely bride, Jamie, and we are so glad that you're joining us for another episode. We are going to be talking about how to keep the sparks alive in your marriage. So there's a little sex and romance kind of discussion. May have wanted to have thrown out a warning if you're listening to this with the kids in the car.
Yeah.
No, but we shouldn't. We're not going.
Yeah, I think we're fairly PG. This is good, but you probably shouldn't be listening to marriage podcasts with the kids
in the
anyway.
car.
So
that's probably
general rule of thumb.
General rule of thumb. You know. Yeah.
But okay, so here's the deal: sex and romance should be alive throughout the longevity of your marriage.
Yes.
They are good things. They're good things for both the husband and the wife.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we want to keep these sparks alive, and it can be a beautiful thing in your marriage, and it should be a beautiful thing in your marriage. And in fact, there's lots of research out there that shows that couples who have regular sex have much lower divorce rates.
Right. Yeah. Well, not only with that, but there's also other physical and psychological benefits.
Yes, there are many of them.
So if just the divorce rate, so that's a good one too. But there's also things like physically, there's better immunity.
That's right. That's right.
Because you are having these better hormones that are being released, right? Those are being kicked up.
I'm just thinking, I'm like, honey, we haven't been sick in years.
We rarely get sick.
I know why. We apologize for that, but yeah.
We warned you about the guy with the kids. Can't say we didn't warn you.
That's right. We just didn't warn you about yourself.
Yeah, I know, that's true.
Didn't tell you to plug your own ears.
Yeah, if our kids are listening right now, they just went,
yeah.
But another benefit, lower blood pressure.
That's right. Yeah, heart health, lower blood pressure, and this is a big one here, but decreased anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a huge deal because those are prevalent problems. And like anxiety and depression
right now,
since 2020 have gone up 35%.
Yeah.
That is significant. Let's have more sex and start treating some of this.
Well, sex and romance.
Yes, yeah.
Right?
The connection.
The connection, the affection, right? And because it's a natural stress reliever.
Pain reliever.
Pain reliever. Yeah, absolutely. So, that the I've got a headache. Well, I'm not trying to dispel that, but sometimes.
Yeah, how bad is the headache?
Yeah,
because maybe you don't need Advil?
Yeah.
Just saying you might need something else for that?
Yeah, better sleep.
That's right. Yeah, which, come on, we all need better sleep.
We all need better sleep.
We all need better sleep.
And, my personal favorite, it counts as exercise.
It does.
So,
it does count as exercise.
Is it oversharing if I say, hold on, let me put on my watch? And
yeah, you don't do that.
Because I want to track this.
You want points for it?
Got to track my activity.
But I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, these things, aside from the divorce rates being lower, there are so many benefits to remaining connected physically and emotionally, in that romance department. I mean, there is a closeness and a security in having a good sex life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even just wanting to be desired.
Yeah.
Wanting to know that your spouse, after years or however many years, still wants you around, for more than just cleaning or a paycheck, right? There's still a connection that isn't able to be shared with anybody else.
Yeah, and it's one of those things because especially if you're in the throes of family life, that can become like running a family and raising a family can become a lot like running a business.
Yeah.
It becomes, there's a lot of routines that happen. There's a lot of, checking the boxes all the time. And so you can end up easily with a business partnership.
Well, yeah, that's what we'll sometimes say. It's running the business of a family, not just the busyness, but the business of running a family. And look, if you spend any time listening to us, you've heard me say many times that we get good at what we practice. And the problem is we tend to practice the wrong things to get really good at them.
Yeah.
One of another saying that I like is, be careful the rut you choose you're going to be in it for a while.
That's right.
And so if you are in one of those seasons, it is hard, like parenting small children, right? You're tired, you're exhausted, and you got to get this, and you got to check this, and you got to make bottles, and you got to have this,
Yeah.
right? And so it's constant go, 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 and these checklists are in your mind. Well, that checklist doesn't usually include, hey, time for each other.
That's right.
Right, because and I feel for women. Look, that you're already kind of being grasped on and grappled and
Yes,
is that the
and
roped?
pulled at all day
Yeah.
long by little kids.
Sure, and so it's hard to switch over to an affectionate or things like that. It could feel a really kind of off at that point in during that season, and so I understand that. But right, so if we get into a rut, if we get that mindset and we don't fight it, if we don't push against that, and even guys, if they're just like, I'm doing this, I'm working, I get up in this, I work out, I do that, blah, 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 and then we go home and we take care of all this, and then boom, we're going to bed and we're asleep, and that's where I think a lot of guys get in trouble because at the end of the night they kind of roll over and go, oh yeah, on my chick to-do list, I forgot to include any kind of romance or any kind of wooing you, but
I want the benefits, but I've done nothing.
I haven't invested.
And not that you need to earn it.
No, but there should be an investment.
Yes, you need to be meeting basic needs, because talking about the running of the house, if you've made all of that, if you've made your relationship more of a business deal, well, you're not going to be having sex and being romantic with a business associate near as much as you are with a helpful husband who pays attention to you and who sees your stress, or with a wife who sees you've had hard days, hard things happening, or that you're tired, whatever it is. And all of those things can go both ways for sure.
Absolutely.
But when we interrupt the mundane, the routine, the busyness with something like sex and romance, one, that makes all that stuff easier to do and to deal with, because now I'm doing it with somebody I love and somebody who meets needs in me, somebody I'm close and connected with, versus a business partner.
Right. Well, actually, I was just thinking, now it's part of meeting needs on different levels than it is just trying to check a thing off the list.
Right.
Right. It's meeting that closeness.
There's love involved in it.
Connectedness. Just even on this is going to, I don't mean the sexual, but right, the two becoming one flesh, right? Because it's deeper than just having sex, right? It's deeper. There's
that connection.
Yeah, there's a connection, a deep connection. There's oxytocin that's being released, which is a bonding chemical, right? And so there's all this stuff that happens that is just, it's a great benefit. And it does so much more than just the act.
Yeah, that is so true. It really is a beautiful thing, and it's got to be a part of your marriage. And here's, for starters, you also want to give yourselves grace.
True.
Because not every season is it going to be easy for you to prioritize sex and romance.
No.
In fact, there's some seasons where you're not going to be having it. You have a newborn baby. Well, you need your body to heal.
Yeah.
There are seasons like that. Physical changes or health issues, mental health struggles can decrease sexual desire.
Yeah.
Certain medications can lower libidos. And so you want to be sure that you're allowing grace for these seasons.
Well, even later on in life, like, guys, after you get over 40, your testosterone levels start to drop. I mean, some more significantly than others. And you think in your 40s, I shouldn't be affected by this. But a lot of them, you are. Because you take that and you layer on stress and work issues. That is very counterproductive to intimacy.
And that's something that can make a man feel inadequate.
Sure, yeah.
And so maybe they have bodily changes and they start withdrawing because it's embarrassing. They feel like a failure. They feel like something wrong is happening, where really it can be very normal, easily treatable. And in fact, one of the best things for a man to do is to get out of his head with all of that talk about that, and that can help.
Well, even get it out of your head, because a lot of guys will. We've seen it. We've seen that there's a lack of affection, not even holding hands, not even spending time, because it all started off with a guy who's worried about
not being able to perform taking too long.
So then he's like, okay, well then I won't do the things that might lead us down that path. And so even holding hands or saying kind words just get pulled pulled off the table because it might lead us down there. But that doesn't get shared. So there's a lot
Right.
of missed messages that happen and a lot of distance that happens. So we got to communicate.
Yes, and wives, you need to be aware of that if you're seeing that in your husband and affirm him. Let him know, like embrace the changes that are going to come in life and talk about those things and be gentle with him and encourage him to share, to seek medical help if that's needed. And the same goes for husbands towards women. We have hormones that are all kinds of crazy. They are changing all the time. And as a woman, like that is hard to deal with. That is hard to do.
We just gained some guy followers right there after you said that.
Just saying that.
And she said it, honey. I'm going to listen to her.
No. And the women are saying amen. They know it is hard to live when you've got emotions going up and down and your sex drive is going with that.
Yeah.
And things happen, and especially if you're a mom in these harder seasons, you're tired and you're being touched half the day. And whether you work or not, your kids are groping you and needing from you all the time. That lowers your libido.
Yeah.
And so men, you do not sit that is not the time for you to chastise your wife as to how she never has sex with you. That is not sexy.
No.
That is not sexy. And so compassion needs to be held there.
Grace.
And yes. And so those are times where, and that's when we're going to get on to step one to keep those sparks alive, like you're saying, is to communicate. Yeah. You have to listen and share openly, honestly, and frequently with one another.
Right, with everything. And look, you got to be vulnerable. This is the person you married. This is going back to that verse. The two became one flesh. So you're sharing with the one flesh. And so if you're withholding anything from that person, how can you become one? How can you be loving them as yourself if you're not willing to get vulnerable and to share? Which there's a flip side to that. That spouses, you need to try to be a place where the other spouse can be vulnerable. And you all can wander through these deeper waters together, which is
and if you can't, that is a huge sign that you need to get some help. Yeah. It's not okay to be married to a husband who forces things on you and who criticizes you and who is not safe that you can share and talk with. And the same thing, it's not okay to be married to a wife who never wants to have sex, never wants to talk about it, and who distances herself. Either way, those are red flags that your marriage needs some help. You are at that point settling for wrong, unhealthy things in your marriage. And so we would encourage you to get the help that you need. Most of these problems can be dealt with.
Right. Might need medical intervention, right? But you need the first step to be able to be vulnerable with each other, support each other, and help to, as a team, work towards a solution.
That's right. So you need to be able to communicate. And like I said, it's got to be open, honest, and frequent. If that's a problem, get some help. Send us a message. Send us an email. We can help you. We can guide you to some resources, whatever it is. But do not settle for a lack of communication, because if you don't have communication, nobody wants to get romantic with somebody who they're not talking to.
No.
And so you have to be able to be vulnerable. And if you can, that vulnerability, like Chris was saying, it breeds connection and it also breeds vulnerability. And so when you open up and share honestly that, hey, I've been worried because this has been happening to my body. I'm worried about my sex drive. I haven't really been feeling things lately. Now you've got a spouse who's going to open up and share with you. And once you reach a certain age too, there's a lot of me too in that, and so you want to be able to do those things, because communication, foundational if you want to keep the sparks alive.
Absolutely.
In that department.
Across the board. Again, if in everything. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, but keeping the sparks alive, let's talk about having some fun date nights.
Yes.
Right? You got to have date nights. Studies have shown this, that I know it seems trite. It seems like, date night.
I know.
But studies have
Months
shown.
go by without it happening.
Yeah, how impactful. And that's exactly. Couples are like, when's the last time you went on a date night? Well, we went out with the kids here, or we did this, or, when did you two go out? Oh, it's been months.
Yeah.
It's been months. And we're not talking just to go into the hardware store, which you can make a date night, right?
Lowe's is a date night.
You,
It can be a
you
date night.
can be, right, if you're intentional about it.
Mm-hmm.
But make sure you're doing something that's fun and not
Yeah.
just trying to go, well, we went to the grocery store together. Well, I mean, did you like crack into some marshmallows and feed each other along the aisle? Then it probably wasn't a date.
I apologize for that. I apologize for that.
Or take have.
Did you crack into some marshmallows?
Right. Hey, I'm just talking about having fun.
Yeah,
Because you want to have fun.
Yeah.
Right. You want to make sure that they're fun. So whether that's something you go out and just so don't make it just a movie. It can be, but something where you all
the
can
fun
connect.
where you're laughing, you're relaxing, you're burning off some stress, and you're getting the endorphins flowing. And we get it. Like we are parents, but we've had little children.
And still are.
And I know. And sometimes what fun looks like, and we've been broke parents too, and that's a whole thing. And for that, we would send the kids to bed, put them in bed, and then have a special dessert.
Sure.
We, as grown adults, have made forts in the living room and eaten s'mores and ice cream or Chinese food takeout.
True story.
In them and watched a movie underneath in a fort. Those are fun things. So we get it, but being broke and being parents should not excuse you from having date nights. They don't have to cost money, and you don't even have to leave your house, but make them fun, something that you can laugh about.
Yeah, because look, all the laughter and the joking and the having fun together, all those are natural remedies to what we like to call the spark killers. Spark killers are the stress and the busyness and the responsibilities and the children.
Children are spark killers.
They're spark killers. Especially the one time that you're actually trying to get into the room a little early before you all fall asleep, and then you get somebody, I need water.
Yes, yes.
So those are spark killers. The natural remedies: having fun, talking with each other, laughing with each other, playing with each other.
Yeah.
So whether or not you need to include having just games that you play, have a game night with each other, do stuff like that. So that those you gotta to be working on the natural remedies for the spark killers.
That's right. That's right.
And part of that ties into showing affection. We talk about sex and romance, but it starts outside of the bedroom.
Yes, it does.
Sex always starts outside the bedroom. So you've got to have affection. Did you know that studies, well, you know this, but did you know this? Studies have shown that we need, on average, 11 shows of affection a day. So whether that's physical touching or if that's verbal affection, we need that just to maintain emotional health.
Maintaining it.
Just maintaining it, not growing it, just maintaining it. So we need to have those kind words, those flirty words, those affectionate words, those touches, the rubbing on backs, holding hands, hugging, kissing. All that stuff needs to be in place, because if not, then waiting till you're in the bedroom exhausted at the end of the night saying, hey,
no, because those little things also, they fill you up. While most of us are pouring out during our day.
Yeah, good call.
And the little touches and affectionate moves and things like that, or thoughts, or the texts that are like, I love you, thinking about you, or I miss you, can't wait to come home, whatever it is, those fill us up. And so while we're being drained out, we have other things that are filling us up and pouring back in.
Even including showing affection, right? Hey, I appreciate you. Hey, thanks for doing that for me today.
Yes.
Hey, you know what? I appreciate what you do for them with the kids. And I know how hard the kids were for you today. Or I know how hard the work was for you today. Stuff like that just helps the other person be seen and recognized, and it still comes across that as affection. Yeah. Right?
And you want to move towards that person.
Absolutely.
Because that person has made you feel seen and heard and validated.
Right. And we don't want to do this because of this, but people who feel appreciated tend to be more appreciative. So if someone feels like they're getting a lot of appreciation, they'll start to be a lot more appreciating to you.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And then you all get into this kind of appreciation battle, right? Who can appreciate the other person? Worst
Yeah.
places to be.
That's right. That's
Worst places
right.
to be.
And look for the ways that you can actually be a resource to your spouse and help them out. And I'll be the first wife to say, but not the last wife to say, that doing the dishes is sexy. That like when
It's a little
you come
vacuuming.
home, yes. When I used to be a stay-at-home mom and having the 3 girls at home and all that, and for him to come home and instantly give the kids a bath, help out with dinner, say I'm going to do the dishes after. That's sexy. That is like, wow, he sees me, he loves me, he validates me, and he's making my life better. He's making my life easier. That's a big deal. So we want to be doing your spouse's chores every once in a while, the things that they do, and help them out. Or if you know your husband or wife has had a hard day at work, do something real quick that's special. So that way when they walk in the door, you're there to greet them and to do something nice for them. And so it's not as hard as we make it. We just have to be intentional to think about it.
Don't overcomplicate it.
That's right. And so here's the last thing. Here's the last thing we're going to talk about today. If you want to keep those sparks alive, you have to work through any problems that you have.
Yep.
You can't have bitterness and resentment digging roots in your marriage.
Yep.
Those will kill a libido all day long.
Biggest sexual organ is right up here.
That's right. That's right. And so you don't want to have unaddressed issues in your life. You want to acknowledge, okay, and that's why we said earlier on, if you can't communicate, that's an issue you now need to address and get some help with.
Sure.
Because if you can't, you're going to be walking around resentful of the husband who doesn't listen, resentful of the wife who won't ever change and won't do what you're asking or what you're needing to be done and things like that. And it's going to put a wall between you. It's going to start building a wall between you. And so you want to be sure you're addressing any of the problems you have, whether it's conflict resolution, communication, issues with sex, things like that, a problem that you disagree with, parenting issues, anything like that. If you don't address it, then you're going to be dragging it around and bitterness and resentment is going to grow. And there's nothing that will kill an entire relationship more than bitterness and resentment.
Yeah, not just snuff out some sparks, but
that's right.
Just crush the life out of the relationship.
That's right. And so take these things and apply them in your marriage and take this episode and forward it to your spouse. Let us share with them. But do take this seriously because we want to lower your divorce rate. We also want you to have better health. We want you to have better communication. And we want you to have better connected sex and romance as well. And so sex and romance is always going to take 2 of you, but one of you can take the lead. It only takes one of you to go first and start and take the lead. Because ultimately, when you take these investments and you make them in your marriage, that is when you can
enjoy the journey.